Alright, I'm going to get started. Today, I am painting a Assault Intercessor from the Indomitus box. And I'm going to paint him in my new custom chapter, which is going to be called the Laconian Guard. And I'm basing them off the Spartans from the movie 300, not the real Spartans. However, the Laconian Guard is a historical reference because Sparta is in the region of Laconia. So, you know, there's a little bit of historical accuracy, but otherwise there's none. So, the Spartans in 300 were mostly naked. So, most of this marine is going to be skin color. So, we're going to use some Guilliman flesh. The model is primed with Glacier spray paint. And, yeah. So, here we go. We're going to do most of the model in this Guilliman flesh. It's going to be the main color. And then going to do the backpack in red to symbolize the cape from that movie that was red that they all wore. Then the leather, his belt, and his crotch guard and stuff are going to be brown, like the leather they wore in the movie. His helmet will be gold. His knee pad down to his shins will be gold. Yeah, and then eventually I'll figure out a chapter symbol. Not sure if I'm going to do that on this stream today, but you never know. And weapons will be brown with some gold. Don't know if this is actually going to look good. At the very least, I think it'll be funny. And really, that's all I'm interested in right now. I don't have any great plans to play this army competitively or to win any paint competitions with it, so just being funny is all I need right now. Having the bulk of the model look like it's skin colored, I think is going to be strange. But you never know. There are many different paint schemes for Space Marines. So, we might get lucky. Doing these shoulder pads in contrast paint is always a tricky business. The only advice I can give you is advice I've given on contrast paint before, is that don't touch the contrast paint a second time. Just let it do its thing. And that gives you your best chance on big flat surfaces like a shoulder pad to not look splotchy. It's obviously not the ideal color or not the ideal type of paint for shoulder pads, but if you're going to do it, then may as well give yourself the best shot at having it look good. I don't remember in the movie if they had armor or not. They might have had armor on their forearms, which would mean that that part of this guy needs to be gold. Hey, Statman, if you're watching, could you quickly Google a picture of the Spartans from 300 and see if they had armor on their arms at all? I'm pretty sure they didn't. But I want to be as close to the movie as possible. And if Statman's not watching, well, oh well then. We'll just have to continue on and be inaccurate. Potentially. Alright, so that's the skin color done. Just gonna mash it in there a bit. And as you can see, the skin tone's pooling a little bit too much there, but yeah, whatever. That's okay. I might try to pull it out just a tiny bit. When you pull out contrast paint like this, you never want to pull from the top of the pool. You always want to pull from the bottom. That way, if you get a tide mark, it's covered by the other contrast paint. So there could be a tide mark, for instance, under this pool, but we can't see it because it's under the pool. So same thing right here. I'm just going to grab it from the corner with a wet brush and just soak it up a little bit. And do the same thing on this side. Don't worry, you haven't missed much. Just talking about how historically accurate the movie 300 was. I know you share that opinion, so don't worry about it. No need to comment. So now I'm going to do the backpack, just like this is as close as we're going to get to a cape on these guys. So I'm going to do that in Blood Angels Red. And just going to be careful to not get any of this color on the other bits of the armor that we've already painted, because that would require going back over with some primer probably, and then repainting the skin tone on. Rule of cool. Yep, that's it. Just going to get the underside of this. And eventually I think I will get some spears and shields for all these guys. But for now, I'm just going to paint their pistols and chainswords in the same kind of color scheme. Looks like brass bracers and leather straps. So like just forearm down basically. Forearm to wrist. Or elbow to wrist, I guess. Is that what you mean there, Statman? Some magnificent capes would be nice. I don't know if I want to green stuff that many capes, though. The leaders will definitely have capes for sure. I don't know if I want to green stuff 30 capes on my troops, though. That seems like a lot. But it might happen, we'll see. It won't happen today, I'll tell you that. But it might one day happen. Alright. There's his red cape that I missed a spot on. Missed 2 spots on. Oh no. Blade guard is going to look amazing. Yeah. That's true. I hadn't even considered blade guard because they're already painted. All the blade guard I got are already painted in my purple color scheme, but I will have to get some more blade guard for this army. Right. Yeah, I think there are a couple companies. I also may, just for cost factor, there's a company called Zvezda that makes a bunch of historical miniatures, and I believe they make 32 millimeter Greek hoplites, and I think those shields would work. These models are obviously bigger than 32 mil, but I think it's close enough. Wrist to mid forearm, almost. All right, cool. So we'll do some gold on their arms. First, I'm going to put the brown on their weapons. I'm going to do that with Cygor Brown. Am I going to do it with Cygor Brown? Maybe I'm not. My Cygor Brown is out. I'll do it with Wildwood. Or Wildwood's almost out, but not Cygor Brown. Wildwood instead. So I'm just going to cover the entire weapon in this color. Because in the movie, you know, they use wooden weapons. So, I mean, wooden weapons with metal tips, obviously. But I assume they were bronze. But I don't know. I actually don't know historically. I'm not a huge fan of Greek history. So I assume they were using bronze at the Battle of Thermopylae and those campaigns, but I don't know for sure. A game store in town? Whoa. Hold on a second. Are you sure? I'm not convinced. Bronze, okay. That's what I thought, but you never know. Those Greeks, especially Especially the Spartans. Who knows what crazy metals they might have come up with. So I'll probably do the teeth of the chainsword in the same bronze color. That sounds good to me. I'm going to coat it all in this brown right now, though. I also have to figure out a basing scheme for these guys. That we probably will do on stream today, because I don't think this paint scheme is going to take me even close to an hour. But you never know. When I get into the bronze and start using real paint, not just contrast paint, we'll have to see. Probably inferior ones to Athens. Yeah, probably. Athens are like, they're a bunch of wimps, though. Spartans come running in to have a battle, and they just hide behind a wall. Ridiculous. Dirt soaked in the blood of their enemies. Yeah, that's probably a good basing scheme, to be honest. Just maybe I'll get some actual Persian, like historical miniature Persians, and put them on the base. Just for fun. Alright, I'm going to do the leather now. I'm going to do that in snakebite leather. That's going to be his belt, his crotch guard, and I think that's it. I think that's the only leather parts on them. I originally had thought that their crotch guards were red in the movie, but nope. I just checked, I checked before the stream, and they're made of leather or cloth or something. They're brown. That's the important part. So I will also do them brown. Probably not leather. That seems excessive. Of course, Leonidas did have a mohawk, which is the definition of excess. So I should say not a mohawk in his actual hair, a mohawk on his helmet of horsehair or something. So I suppose you could argue it could be useful on the battlefield so his men know where he is, because he sticks out. He's taller than the rest of them. But I just don't know. I still think it's a little ridiculous. My high school mascot was the Spartans, and yes, we all did the "What is your profession?" chant. Yes, it was really cringy, and finally, yes, we lost all our football games. Wow. Unless you were doing the chant, I mean, I assume y'all were just doing the chant straight out of the movie, which agreed. Kind of weird. Now, if you had been doing the chant, "What is your profession? McDonald's, McDonald's, McDonald's." Now that would strike fear in the heart of your enemy. For sure. Yeah, hell, it revolts. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Just getting in the way, preventing conquering. Absolutely ridiculous. A crest. Okay, we can call it a crest, but it's on his helmet facing this way. It's a mohawk. The only thing I don't like about the Space Marines is that most of the mohawks that they put on Space Marines are facing the wrong way. They're going left to right. Every time that happens, I cut it off and turn it front to back. The new pointy elves, however, like this one I have right here, they know how to sport a mohawk. Now that's a mohawk. If more Space Marines had mohawks like that, we'd all be set. I might actually, this actually gives me a thought. I might need to get some pointy elves, cut their mohawks off, and put them on some Space Marines. Because that head on a Space Marine would be amazing. This might need to happen. This might need to happen. All right, back to actually painting. I guess it's the only thing that's left is the gold before we do some highlights and stuff. So let's do some gold. I'm going to use some scale 75 gold today because I like the gold. That gold, rather. I'm going to use necrotic gold. Right somewhere. Yep, necrotic gold. And peridot alchemy as the two. When the response to Philip of Macedon on whether he should enter Sparta as a friend or foe is neither, I don't think they would care. I think the response was if, wasn't it? Didn't he say, if I come into your land, I will do all this stuff? And they responded with if. I think that's probably not historical. It's probably exaggerated. But maybe it is historical. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Greek history. Also, they may have said that to Philip of Macedon. Certain successor of his kind of did ravage their lands. So, hey man, we're Americans. You take a letter or you take a word that is from another language, you look at the letters, you pronounce every letter, that is how you pronounce it. Done. I was just doing the appropriate American pronunciation. Okay. So, just making sure that this first gold is shaken up really well. I don't use these golds too much, so they can have a tendency to settle sometimes. That should be good. Alrighty. So we're starting with the necrotic gold. Necrotic gold. And I'm just going to paint the knee pads and the shin armor. And I'm going to do his helmet and then something on his wrists also. Oh, and then the teeth of his chainsword. I might do the tip of his bolter in this bronze gold color also, just to be like the tip of the spear. Why are you painting a Greek-themed army and you not know Greek history? Because I watched the movie 300. That gave me all the Greek history I need. I'm trying to remember what the inspiration was for... I mean, obviously, you know, the movie was the inspiration, but I haven't watched the movie in any sense of the word recently. So I'm trying to remember what the actual, like, light bulb in my head was that, like, hey, I should paint these guys like Spartans. I don't remember what it was. I think it was something I saw online, maybe. Or it might have just been, I wanted to make a fight in the shade joke with stealthy. The chapter tactic? I honestly cannot remember now. Bronze gold tip bolter so we know it's a fake gun. That's a good call. That's a good call. Alright. Hit this other knee pad here. We're going to have to paint the purity seal. I wonder how Spartans would have... I wonder what Spartans would have made purity seals out of. Did Spartans have wax technology? I assume some form of wax existed. Beeswax or something like that. I mean, it's a big assumption because I have no idea, but I'm guessing they had wax. I'm trying to think of some... So, I mean, they had writing, which means they obviously had some form of ink or something to write with. So, it's not too far from the truth that they could, or doesn't seem to be too far from the truth that they could have some sort of wax of some sort. Wax was really common. Perfect. So, since I assume they have... Well, since I know they have writing, and therefore they have ink, that means they could potentially have different colored inks, which means they could color their wax. Which means we can do that purity seal in whatever color we want. Also need to touch up that leg. Wow. Alright. Alright, I'm going to do the helmet now. They had little wood tablets with a layer of wax on them that they used for notepads. Well, perfect. Look at that. Oh, I see, like, scratched into the wax, I guess. That's neat. Like a dry erase board of the BCs. Except I guess it would be a heat erase board, wouldn't it? You just heat the wax back up and it melts and forms a solid layer again. Okay. Here's his helmet all golded up. Wonderful. Alright, so then he said, I'm going to do these in gold. And if Statman lied to me, well, then he lied to me. Even if he did lying to me, he's worth keeping around, I guess. Alright. Just there. I'm going to highlight this gold in a kind of an easy way to highlight gold, which can look pretty bad from close up, but from farther away can look pretty decent with very limited effort. And limited effort is my kind of paint style. Unless I'm painting for, like, on commission or for somebody else. If I'm painting for myself, limited effort is the way to go. As long as it still looks good. Limited effort that looks like trash, well then, not interested in that. But limited effort that lives up to your personal skill level is always a good idea. Alright, I'm going to just touch up the skin color here. Going back to Golem and Flesh. So Commander Bubblecles wants to send a message to someone else who can read. He writes on the wax with a pointed stick and sends Biotoclitus, to run it over to other Gaiacles, who reads it, and then he can erase the message by holding it over a candle. What happens if it's hot while you're running over there? This is how the Athenians end up not behind their wall, and Sparta kills them all. Because some guy decided to send a waxboard message in the summer. And whatever goes about running in the summer, and then wax melts and they're all doomed. But I suppose if the alternative is hope a slave remembers what you tell them, I guess that's probably preferred to trusting a slave who, of course, could never do anything. Alright, Teeth of the Chainsword. Teeth of the Chainsword. And then, actually, we'll do Tip of the Bolter first. Alright, Tip of the Bolter. Just like Tip of the Spear, it is now gold. And then Teeth of the Chainsword. And the other side. Thanks. Now I'm picturing a mountain of muscles named Bubblecles writing, "Not now, strike later." Yikes. Slayer Orange for Chainsword? Slayer Orange? I don't think that really fits with the theme. I'm touching up the armor again. Oh, that's the wrong color. Touching up the armor again with Guilliman flesh. I keep seeing parts of the armor that I've missed, and so I got to go back and color them in. I should note also, when you go back like this to cover some part of the primer that you missed, specifically with contrast paint, you always want to make sure to paint a bigger area than just what you're repainting, so that the new layer blends across the old layer and doesn't give you a line. So I only had this little spot to paint in here. I'm on light right in there, but I painted all in here with the second layer so that you can't tell which part was painted first and which part was painted second. Because lines will ruin it all. Alright, so then, I guess, we're basically there, to be honest. We're going to highlight the gold. For that, I'm going to use, what did I use? I used Necrogold the first time. I'm going to use Peridot Alchemy for the second, or for the highlight. And so how I'm going to highlight this is pretty much everywhere we painted with gold is a round surface. So I'm going to get some brush on my paint, get some paint on my brush. And then, not a ton of paint, sort of like I'm doing a dry brush, but not exactly. So there's paint on the brush, but not loaded. And then I'm just going to swish back and forth like this along the middle of each of these things here, each of these sections. So I'm just going to do this. I'm breaking the cylinder of the shin pad into two halves, basically, and going down the middle of each half. Do the same thing with this side. Sort of down the middle like this. And over here. And over here. And right up close, you can see the lines. Like right in here especially, you can see the line there. But when you get farther away, it'll just look like a highlight. And that's all I'm looking for. So then I'm going to do one right on his forehead. On the side of his head here. Get some on the shoulder pad and wipe it off. And then the side of the head here. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did with the leg armor and split this into two cylinders. So go down the middle here. And go down the middle here. And then I'll do top of the gun barrel. And then I'm just going to do the sides of the chains, or the fronts, I guess, of the chainsaw pieces there. And yeah, there's some highlighted gold. So we don't have too much left to do, to be honest. So here's where I think I need to break from the movie. Because there's this Aquila here on his chest. And an Aquila would never be just the color of their armor. I feel like, anyway. I could be wrong. But feel like it would never just be the color of the armor. So I am going to paint it a color. I think I'm just going to paint it black. Just because I don't know exactly what color to paint it. I don't want to paint it a vibrant color that takes away from the paint scheme that I already have. So I'm just going to do black straight over the other contrast. And I'm using black Templar contrast for this. And I'm just going to do it very light. Not maybe as heavy as I would another contrast paint. And that way the paint that was already underneath it, the skin color, will just act like a highlight basically, and I won't have to really do anything else to it. Alright. So there's that. That looks fine, I think. Doesn't take away from the 300 look too much. Alright, then I'm going to highlight the bread, because it's just a flat panel right now. I'm going to highlight it with Wild Rider Red, I think, if I can get a hold of it. Yep, Wild Rider Red. Perfect. I'm just going to do a quick edge highlight on the backpack with this. Oh, and I have to do the Purity Seal also. Alright, so I'm just going to do an edge highlight as you would with any Space Marine backpack. Let's go down here on the sides. And over here. And then, oh, too much paint on the brush. And just do right here and here. Okay. And then I'll do one on the other side of these backpack parts here. Woo. Like that. This is not any different for this model. This is just how you would highlight any Space Marine backpack, basically. Just depends on what color you're using. And then I think I'll give it a highlight along here. And these up there. And then I'm just going to highlight, I'm going to brace this model really well. And I'm just going to do along these curved bits here. Like that. Like that. And then just quickly along here. And that's, we'll call that good enough highlighted for today. Doesn't have to be super fancy, just something to break it up. I feel like I've missed some chat here. Let me scroll up. Bubba Cleese. Or Greg's Way is much better. Oh yeah, Bubba Cleese, like Heracles or Pericles, or yeah. Bubbacles though, man. You take each letter and you pronounce it like an American. That's how you make words. You can clip that if you want. Take each letter and pronounce it. That's how you make words. Confirmed. All right. Floyd messing up people's plans. Whatever. It happens. I was all setting and getting close to being done, and then I saw yours with all the vertical stuff that adds interest, and I was like, expletive. I need vertical expletive. Fantastic. All right. I'm going to get some Skeleton Horde. Woo, Skeleton Horde. And put it on the parchment area of this purity seal. And then I'm going to find a color to do the wax. And actually, I might highlight... Should I edge highlight the armor? Oof. That's a tough one. We'll think about it. Not right now. All right, so there's Skeleton Horde on the purity seal. Done. And then a wax color. What are we going to do? I think we're just going to go super cheaty. Got a red backpack. We're going to go blue purity seal. I don't care if they didn't have vibrant blue dye. I'm sure they didn't have Gerard Butler with a Scottish accent either, but here you go. If they can have Gerard Butler with a Scottish accent, I can have blue purity seals. Okay. Perfect. Then that was Talisar Blue, by the way. I'm just ruining Statman's job today. I haven't held up like half my paints. Talisar Blue. Now I'm going to get some Techless Blue. Cool, bam. And put a dot of that in the middle of this purity seal. And just right. Maybe. That'll do. All right, purity seal. Acceptable. Actually, we haven't used Vampiric Highlight yet this show, so I'm going to use some Vampiric Highlight and just highlight the purity seal. Just the parchment part, not the wax part, obviously. So I'm just going to go up the side here. And then these little lines go across there, the folds, whatever they are. And like that. Done. Oh, the eyeballs. The eyeballs. I forgot he had eyes. Eye lenses, I guess. I'm going to go back to Black Templar. Just so you know, everyone, I'm sure everyone doesn't know, because how would they? Statman, the man who I have recording all the paints I use so I can add them to the YouTube videos later, every time I use Vampiric Highlight, he makes a Twilight joke in the transcript he gives me. And that's really the only reason I continue to use this color. As soon as the Twilight jokes stop, I'll find a new white. But as long as I get Twilight jokes out of it, Vampiric Highlight is the white for me. Alright, there's some eye lenses. I'm going to put some life dots in those eye lenses as soon as that dries. Someone asked me, actually, the other day what a life dot was. And a life dot, as far as I understand it, is a point of light in someone's eye that's something to do with the optic nerve or how the blood flows through the eye or something, where it will always reflect a point of light at a certain spot in the eye. But then if a person dies and you look at their eyes, something with, again, the blood flow or the optic nerve changes, and that light won't reflect the same way. And so a life dot is just the point of light in an eyeball that shows a person is alive. This is a Space Marine with a helmet on, so that doesn't make any sense, but I'm still going to do it. So I'm just going to put a little... Oh, too much paint. Going to put a little dot. Don't we have a nurse in the chat? Nurse. I'm sure that you can probably explain if I'm an idiot or if that is anything related to reality. Nurses don't get paid enough as it is. Let's make them work while they're having leisure time. Woo! Alright, just a little dot in the corner there. The Twilight jokes will never stop. Fantastic. Alright, so there's our life dot. That doesn't make sense because it's a piece of metal or something, so. Alright, I'm off work today. Nice. Well done. Alright, I think we're about done. I think the camera is reading him as yellow. Wow, look at the color change. Yellow camera, white camera. Changes color, practically. So I think we're going to call him done. As I suspected, the paint scheme does look a little goofy. However, I accept it. I think it's fine. I think I should probably do some edge highlighting on the weapons, but I don't want to, so I'm not going to. And yeah, so we're going to call that done. We're going to go on to his base. I don't know how I'm going to do his base, but I do know that first I'm going to rip him off of it. Oh, all right. He'll just sit nicely over there while we work on his base. So I'm going to start with... What am I going to start with? A Grell and Earth? Grell and Earth is what I have handy. I don't know if that's what I want to start with, though. I think I'm actually going to get a different texture paint. Had to be off so I could see the start of the new chapter. True. Yeah, the camera adjusting is so crazy. Eventually, let's get some... There we go. Armageddon Dust. That's what we're going to use. Thank you, Paint Rack. Eventually, I can stream directly on YouTube. And YouTube streaming allows direct 1080p input. Facebook Live only allows 720, so I think that has something to do with it. I think when you are recording at 720, basically a lot of the sensors that are involved with 1080p or 4K even deactivate themselves, and I think that's the reason for the lighting. It could just be that my lamp is crap. I don't know. But I'm telling myself that it's Facebook's fault, not my own. And really, that's all I need in life. So yeah, I'm using Armageddon Dust. I'm just going to put a bunch of it on this base. And I'm going to cover this. No, I'm not. I have to put a foot peg back in that hole. I'm not going to cover this hole. Okay. Just going to do some varied texture here. Sorry, not varied texture. The texture would be pretty similar. Varied depth of dirt, essentially. Still have 20 minutes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I could probably... I think that you still have 20 minutes was like, get to edge highlighting. You have plenty of time, but, you know. I might. After, maybe as the base is drying, I'll do some edge highlights on the weapons. If I'm feeling particularly feisty. I think the edge highlights would be in Gorthor Brown, so that's always a plus. And as a Space Marine, he is very likely to be airstruck at some point in his life, so Gorthor Brown on him would certainly help. Alright, so there's the texture paint on his base. As you can see, we got some varied depths. Some is thick, some is thin. That's what we want. So there's that. Looks like baby poop. I bet you could get a bunch of that for free. Land in. Alright. Alright, fine. We'll do some edge highlights on this. I'm not using Gorthor Brown. I thought I was. I'm not. Steel Legion Drab. It'll look better. It won't be better, but it will look better. It won't be better because it's not Gorthor Brown, but it will look better. Because this color is closer to the color that I used on the weapons. So, shouldn't be holding the model like this. I just painted him. Should be holding him by the base, but, you know, we're doing the base over there. It's fine. Am I going to do it that way? Nope. Not going to do it that way. I'll wipe that right back off. Just going to do it on the side here. Just the highlight. And then on the other side. And then down here. Just a little bit of highlights. Just a little bit of highlighting, rather. Present participle, English. I've been struggling. Well, no, I've been nailing English today. It's just the other languages that I'm translating or transferring words to English that I've been struggling with today. All right, so that's fine. And this gun over here, I'm just going to do these little buttons or whatever they are in brown. Wow, I've completely forgotten the word for that. It slides back. The casing comes out, slides forward to push the next round into the chamber. It's gone. Whatever that thing is on a gun, I painted that Steel Legion Drab. You can all make fun of me now. All right. And then the slide. Is it called the bolt? Ha! See, it was in there. It was in there somewhere. You're going to have issues with airstrikes. Yeah, I know. It'll happen. All right. Edge highlight along the edge of this gun. Very carefully. I'll do the bottom of the magazine here. See, I couldn't think of the word for the bolt, but I didn't just call the magazine a clip, so I feel like I get credit for that. And then I'll just do the bottom of the grip here and the top. And then Doom Scythes. Okay. Doom Scythes in the chat. I like it. I have 4 Doom Scythes over on a shelf over there. None of them belong to me, but I've got them. Alright. We edge highlighted his weapons there. This is going to take forever to dry. We'll come back to that, though. I'm going to highlight or shade the gold, rather. Clip Speed magazines, you know that, and you taught me. Well, you know. I'm going to use some Dark Oath Flesh, and I'm going to shade the metal a little bit. Just in the recesses of the metal. I'm just going to put it like in here. Just to give the metal a little more depth. I have a theory about why a ton of people started calling magazines clips. And I don't know how accurate this guess is, but when I was a kid, okay, so first of all, a lot of my generation is on the internet. I might even hazard a guess and say all, at least, in the West. I'm very sorry for everyone struggling out there in the world who can't even afford to have the internet. But okay, anyway. In the West, in the United States of America and Europe, there's a lot of people in my generation on the internet. There's also, I'm guessing, a lot of people in my generation who played the early Call of Duty games. And the early Call of Duty games, being focused on WW2, the campaign, at least in one of them, was based on an American soldier. So you were firing the M1 Garand. And as far as I understand it, again, this could be all wrong, and this theory is kaput immediately. However, I think the M1 Garand has an internal magazine that does not exit the gun, and you use a clip to load the bullets, the rounds, into said magazine. And so you'd have people yelling back and forth in that game like, I need another clip, because you would carry clips of rounds around. And so everyone was like, oh yeah, I'm reloading the gun with a clip. So a clip is a magazine. Done. That's what I think. That's why I think clip and magazine accidentally became synonymous with each other. No idea how accurate that is, but that's what I think. All right, I'm going to use some... exactly correct. Perfect. I'm going to use the hairdryer to dry this just a little bit. We don't have to get it dry all the way, just enough that I can dry brush it. Or stipple it or something. Put a second color on it in some way. Close enough. All right. I'm going to stipple on some... I'm going to get a really soft brush here. I'm going to get my big old makeup brush because it's super soft. I'm going to get some of this vampiric highlight back on it. And if you can see, let's see if I can show this on camera. So I have some vampiric highlight on this brush, but I have it not everywhere, just in some places. So when I put it down, it leaves paint not completely all where the brush is, just in some places. I'm going to do that to this base right now. It's also, because it's still a little bit wet, I'm going to pull a little bit of the paint off, create more texture. At least that's the plan. So I'm just going to do this. Go a little harder, just to make sure. Good, and as you can see, it did create a little more texture in the part that was soft there. And then I'm just going to go back and forth. All right, that should be good there. Rinse my makeup brush off because it did get some texture paint on it. I'll have to fully wash that after the stream. That's okay. Then I'm going to get some, I think, Skeleton Horde, actually. Same thing we used on the Purity Seal. And I'm just going to cover the base with this. Just being careful that it doesn't move our texture around too much. And I'm using a brush that has been washed and it is wet, but I did not dry off afterward. So our texture, or rather our contrast paint, is a little thinner than it would normally be straight out of the pot. And so it doesn't cover as well. And so it will give us a better sand texture, or sand look. At least I'm hoping. Maybe not, but it looks good enough, especially for doing the base and the full paint job in an hour. Alright, so that's fine. I'm going to take then this smaller brush that I just used to apply the wash, get some of the vampiric highlight on that, and then touch around like this. And that'll mix with the vampiric highlight and give us a sandy color, sort of. That's good. Once it dries, that'll be all good. Then I'm just going to take some of these, I think they're officially winter tufts, but I use them as dead, like arid tufts. And our texture paint's still wet, so no problem. We don't even need any super glue. I'm just going to take them with a pair of tweezers and apply a couple of them. Make sure they're pushed all the way down. Maybe get one of a different size now. And when applying tufts, let's see, I'm missing some chat here. Floyd, Greg is drying his hair in the middle of a live stream. You got it. All right. Totally looks like sand from the wrong part of Greece. Perfect. So yeah, as I was saying, when you're applying tufts, you want to avoid patterns because nature is not symmetrical. You also want to avoid becoming too irregular to the point that it looks regular. So I'm just going to put 3, if I just stopped right here and put 3 tufts, it doesn't necessarily look like a pattern, but it doesn't look right. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it, but I need another tuft, and I need it right here, and it needs to be on the edge, very edge over here. And so now it looks more random. I don't know exactly. We need a real artist is what I need to explain exactly how that all works. But how many are too many? There's no such thing as too many tufts. Absolutely no such thing. Where's this big boy right here? Happens to be sitting here. There's a lot of tufts on this guy. You could probably double this amount of tufts easily. There's never too many tufts. All right, so there's that. I'm going to put the model back on the tuft, or back on the base. How does he go in here? Is he running this way? I think he's running this way. No, he's not running that way. He's running this. He's running like this? That looks right. He's running like that. All right, so there's him. Just going to paint the base rim in throw the paint on the ground in Abaddon Black. All right. And just like with, I was talking about contrast, how you want to put it on and don't touch it again. Same principle applies to painting base rims. You want to put paint on and not fiddle with it too much. Put it on one spot and then leave it, especially when you're putting a dark color like this onto a light primer or the reverse. I don't know why you're putting a light color base rim on things. Typically, you put a dark color, but some people can do light colors and it looks good. So, in that situation. All right, and then, you wait for him to dry. You take a bunch of fancy pictures. You impress your friends. Most of your friends think it looks mediocre at best, but we move on. And there he is. He's all done. I'll put my hand back there so that we get the actual color of the miniature. So there is my 300 style chapter paint scheme. I think the armor could probably do with some edge highlighting, which I may do at some point in the future. But for just a quick and easy, let's get them on the table, I think that worked out pretty well. So yeah, that's it. That's all for this one. I will be back on Monday at the new time, 8 p.m. What are friends? Fantastic. So yeah, I will be back at 8 p.m. on Monday for the second episode of Straight from the Pot After Dark, which is also the 22nd episode of Normal Straight from the Pot, whatever. And then next Wednesday, I'll be on the main channel doing some D&D or board game stuff. And then Friday, I'll be back here again doing Warhammer. I may turn Friday into a more long-term project day. So I may just be working on an army for several episodes. We'll have to see. Also, if you don't mind me shilling to you, although I don't know if it counts as shilling if I don't make any money. Anyway, the YouTube channel is very close to 2,000 views. I would very much like to see that number go to 2,000. If you have a moment, maybe go click on a video. Maybe comment, I'm only here because Greg wanted me to be here. And then people will realize that I'm just a desperate can't say that word on stream. Desperate for views. There we go. But otherwise, thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you next week.